Hello, I'm Michelle Murphy, and I'm here with my pal, Dawn Watson, and we're thrilled to have you here today for our very first Murphy, Watson and Company.
Yes.
Ta-da.
Our very first of many, many Murphy, Watson and Companies to come, we hope. I'm Dawn Watson. I'm the features editor for the Press News Group, which is the Southampton Press, East and West, the East Hampton Press, and 27east.com. And Michelle and I met each other several years ago, and this idea for the show has been percolating since. So Michelle, tell a little bit about yourself before we go to our first guest.
Absolutely. Well, I am a big fan of Dawn's, and when we met, we just sort of hit it off with our common interests in the arts and our living out here, but it took us a couple years to have the little window of time when we could actually get this thing, get the show on the road. So here we are. I'm a painter and a writer and a lover of creative people and the process, and I'm here with Dawn, ready to get started. And we have our very first guest sitting here with us, Bruce Wolosoff, and we're so happy to have you here.
Thank you. It's a pleasure for me to be here.
Welcome, Bruce.
Hi, Dawn.
For those who might not yet know everything about Bruce, which we hope to uncover in this half an hour, but Bruce is a virtuoso pianist and a composer, and he also lives in Shelter Island.
I do, with my wife and 2 daughters.
Very talented family, all of them.
Thank you.
It must levitate that house with all that's going on.
There's a lot of living that goes on in our house, making art.
Your wife is an artist?
My wife, Margaret Garrett, is a painter of beautiful abstract canvases, works on paper. And my younger daughter, Katya, is a cellist and artist and baker of vegan chocolate chip cookies. And my elder daughter, Juliet, is a sophomore at Princeton. She's a songwriter, an actress, and is majoring in the Woodrow Wilson School of Public Policy. So she's got the brains from my wife's side of the family.
Oh, for sure, yeah. So she's going to change the world eventually. We're watching her.
Yes, I would bet on that.
Yeah. So those are probably your major creative sources and productions.
Oh, that's a very
Your
interesting.
children.
That's a very interesting question. They certainly inspire me, my family. But living out here, you're also drawing from nature and the inspiration of the environment and the community. Some of the brilliant artists in this community, and I have a lot of interaction with musicians and artists of the past, and a lot of my daily life is involved with composers who've lived before and artists whose work I respond to, and writers. You read a line of a poem, and next thing you know, there's music. Things trigger off musical experiences, things in the world, and I'm trying as I get older and more open rather than closed, that I'm trying to respond to these things quickly, because you don't know if the inspiration is going to be there in 5 minutes.
I think time is an interesting thing to talk about with you. You started playing piano when you were 3, is that right?
I did, yes. I started when I was 2, but I couldn't have lessons. The teacher said my hands were too small, and so he came back when I was 3.
That's so funny. So tell me a little bit about how you discovered the piano. I mean, were your parents musical?
No, not really. There was a piano in my house, and my older sister, Joy, took lessons. And there was something about this thing in the room that I was drawn to it. I was always drawn to it. I was fascinated by it, that you could affect your environment by the sounds that you created. And so, you could create the world that you're in. Yeah. You could participate in that.
That's well put, isn't it?
That is well put. But I'm guessing you, as a child, you were probably in your head a bit, and that's how that came through musically? So.
Yeah, dreamy kid, yeah. Introverted, dreamy.
Listening to your music, I was making notes, and the word moody kept coming back. Am I right?
Moody, mysterious, haunting.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, all of that.
Mystical.
And you're very, very diverse in your abilities. It's utterly amazing that you can channel all sorts of people, things, situations, and go from like Shenandoah Valley even, you can do that a million ways. Or, you know, Anne Reinking gives you a dance and it can take a million forms, and you're right there with that artist.
Thank
Or-
you. Thank you. That's very
Yeah.
that's very perceptive. I love being able to respond to things musically, as we're saying. I think that's that's I'm discovering is the nature of my inspiration is to respond, and so collaborating in recent years has taken on a greater heat and intensity for me, rather than working in a vacuum and just constantly having to create the world. There are worlds out there with which we can interact.
I have a question for Dawn.
Yes.
Have you ever had a dream where you actually composed a song or any music whatsoever?
No.
Either have I.
No, and you know, but the funny
Yeah.
thing is, I have had many dreams, and this makes sense for who I am, as it would make sense for Bruce to have the musical thing. I have many movie dreams. So I'm a writer, that makes sense. So I have all of these dreams, and I wake up and immediately put pen to paper and start writing these scenarios, because I definitely have that kind of very visual dream. But I think it's interesting because Bruce has this same thing too, where I've read time and again, your music is described as very visual. And I think that's kind of an interesting thing, because you think of music as something that transports you or makes you feel something, or you can get a vibe, but how do you get music to jump off the page and become something you can see?
I remember as a little boy, one of my first musical experience, big musical experience that I remember was when my parents took me to the Museum of Modern Art, and Van Gogh's Starry Night was there. And
that translated to a musical experience for
did.
you.
It did. I wouldn't leave the spot. I was hearing things, and I wouldn't go, and my parents were, what's with him? Come on. And I just wanted to stay there. And that was a big experience. I like to visit artist studios and listen to their paintings. And the paintings give music. When I go through a museum, I'm listening to the exhibition.
Oh, that's interesting.
You're almost like one of those people who, the alphabet, each letter has a color.
Right.
Have you read about those?
Synesthesia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you seem to have a special gift that way that I've never heard of this before, but I bet there has to be someone else out there who has this, but very few of you talented people who, it's a gift.
I don't think that the auditory imagination is stimulated in children in our culture the way the visual is. I think we place more, we prioritize the visual at a much higher level. I would go so far as to say that almost everybody could have these musical fantasies if they were taught how.
Well, look at how, as children, we're taught to draw a house, and the mother and the father and the family, whatever. You're not taught to think of music.
Right.
Ever, unless you're a talented musician later on.
Right.
But as children, who's taught, that's why I asked about the dreams. I never dream of composing music. I think once in my life did I do that, and it was so odd.
But you have a musical background. Your father's a musician, right?
Well,
yeah,
sort of.
So you grew up with this.
Yeah, but I didn't pursue it, and it's one of my great losses. I think more than being anything, I would wish I was a musician.
And
Because I think it's the most comforting thing you can have with you at all times.
if you were a musician, what would you play?
Gee, I'm very into lyrics and the marrying of words and music. So this morning I was listening to Maybe I'm Amazed by Paul McCartney, and it was like hearing it for the very first time. I was so excited by it; it brought the tears to my eyes.
You were amazed?
Yeah, I was amazed at everything about it.
Yeah.
The orchestration, his emotion, his voice, the meaning behind it. So I'd probably write something like that if I could, if I had that talent. And I only wish I did, but.
Me too.
Well, bringing that up, you have a very interesting way of teaching, I know. There's something that you call a creative orchestra, is that right?
It's something I created at the Hayground School in Bridgehampton.
Did your children go there?
Both my children went there, and it's a wonderful place. I was visiting artist there for 8 years, and
Lucky kids.
it was a great experience. Lucky me, and it got all the kids to compose. We'd look at, it started. I wanted to teach them something about process, and I brought in some paintings that they had done, and said, "Does anybody, when you see any of these paintings, do you hear music?" And they looked around like, who is this guy? And then one little girl raised her hand. I think I hear something. And suddenly all the hands shot up.
That's all it takes.
Yeah,
That one
I hear
little
something
kid.
too.
Right.
What do you hear? Describe it. How can we make that sound? What are we, and it required no formal training whatsoever. Because some of the sounds were, banging on a garbage pail lid.
Yeah.
But that's valid, if that's the sound that you're hearing.
Sure.
And then some kids could actually stomp. Some kids could actually play instruments. And so we brought them in. And next thing you knew, we had a little orchestra, and people were composing for it and conducting and playing each other's music. It was great fun.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Now, you have a couple of new projects that are out, and I think there's one that you're working on that's coming out very soon as well, correct?
A lot more than one, yes. Well, next week I'm recording a solo piano project, which is called Love Book, and they were musical reactions to a children's poem by an Indian actress named Nandana Sen, who wrote this children's poem, and then I was contacted by my friend John Makinson, and he said, "Would you like to respond to this musically?" And so there are these 16 pieces that are responses to these very, very silly, charming couplets. Things like, "I like to caress," growled the tigress. And so that became a tango. And
That's fun.
I like to giggle and laugh. I like to laugh, giggled giraffe. And so each of these pieces is like a carnival of the animals type thing. Musical responses to that. That's next week.
Next week.
Yeah, so I've been practicing.
Just a little something.
Writing
you
for
practice every morning, too, right?
I try to, yeah. Start with some Bach every
What
day.
time?
I'll get up early, but the family sleeps, so try to be sensitive to that.
Yeah. What a lovely way to wake up every day.
No kidding. Well,
They don't think
unless
so.
he was a drummer, then that'd be a whole different thing. Well, talk a little bit about A Light in the Dark. That's an interesting piece that just came out.
It just came out.
Right?
The CD just came out. The ballet was just premiered. It was a collaboration with Anne Ryan-King and Melissa Thodos, the choreographers.
I'm such a fan of Anne's.
Anne Ryan-King is the nicest person in the world, all of you who are hearing that.
Yeah.
She's an
I'm not
inspiration.
surprised. I saw her perform when I was very young. We're probably a similar age, Anne and I, but, she was back in the day when she was doing, and Bob Fosse was still alive and all that, so I just was knocked out
Yeah,
by her then.
she was a great dancer.
But I didn't know what a lovely human being she was. I've since seen her interviewed, and
Yes, she's
Brenda Seimer is a
Seymour,
very
yes.
close friend.
Yes, Brenda introduced us.
I figured.
Yeah. And Annie happened to be over my house for dinner the day that the Songs Without Words CD, I had just received the edited masters of that. And I wanted to hear what they sounded like. She said, "Come on, put them on." And we put them on, put on the first couple. And she said, "I see dances. I have to do something with this music. I just see dances." And she's
the
she's
reverse.
so-
Isn't that funny?
Right.
Because we all have
It's
our
the
own
reverse.
thing of the way we see something. No, we're triggered. That's interesting. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I see
exactly.
dances. Yeah.
And the baker imagines cakes.
Right. Exactly.
And so next thing you know, she and Melissa created a huge ballet out of the Songs Without Words called The White City. That was the best dance of 2011 the Chicago Sun-Times. It was a fantastic piece, and I was really proud to be part of it. And when they finished that, they said, "We have an idea for a new piece." And I said, "Well, what's that?" They said, "Helen Keller." And I thought they were kidding.
Yeah.
Because as a Helen Keller ballet, really?
She can't see, she can't write, and all
Yeah.
those kind of things that could be almost, what's Harrison Bergeron-esque?
I don't know what that is.
Harrison Bergeron was a short story written by Kurt Vonnegut about, it's in the future, and then nobody can be superior, so people who are physically superior are handicapped with weights and chains, and they have to perform ballets with like 10-pound weights attached to them. I can't believe, no, you guys haven't heard this. It's a really cool little short story by another East Ender, actually.
Wow.
Didn't mean to interrupt your story.
You're
it's
going to want to
interesting.
compose music to this, I'm sure.
Maybe if I have time, I would. So then we did A Light in the Dark, which was the story of Helen Keller and Anne Sullivan, her teacher, which was the same story that inspired The Miracle Worker. And that ballet was just premiered a couple weeks ago.
Where was it?
In Chicago at
In
the Harris Theater, the beautiful Harris Theater.
Did you go?
Of course I went.
Oh.
Tried to keep me away.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, and you're writing...
As your new groupie fan, I'm going to find out where you're going.
It's all on my
You're
website.
going to be like a Bruce head instead of a dead head.
Yeah, right. Oh, I want to go, yeah.
The dead Bruce head.
That's funny. Speaking of icons, I have to, you just talked about Brenda.
Yeah.
You and I spoke before about Roy Scheider, and you have to tell a little story about, do you remember the story you told me about him?
I have so many. Roy was a good friend.
And you did
a
a
lovely
film
guy.
about him. Or you did the music for a film?
After he died, that Brenda directed.
It was very beautiful.
It was very moving.
Very moving.
Yeah, Roy was a great guy.
But funny. I know you.
Hysterically funny.
Funny story.
I'm not sure which one you're talking about. Was it that he used to make me watch Nazi movies?
Yes.
Yes.
Am I seeing emotion? You're
Of course you are.
missing-
Yes.
You're missing him.
Barbara Walters, look out.
She's the one who's the personal one.
Yeah,
I'm
you
so
got
sorry,
me on
Bruce.
Roy.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was not very long ago. It was a great loss and a great shock.
February 10th, 5 years ago. Wow. Yeah, he. I think it was unconscious. Either that or he was messing with me. He'd always say, "Come on, there's a new movie. Let's go see it." Next thing, no, I'm good, thanks. Next thing I knew, we'd be watching some movie about, Hitler's last days in the bunker, or the night that he said, he gave me a video. He said, "Hey, there's this movie. It's about a piano player. You should look at it." So I put it on in bed at 10 o'clock at night. Next thing, it's The Pianist. And so, there's Nazis everywhere. That was
Not what I expected.
No, it was not a good night of sleep.
Oh, no. The
Ro-
fingers.
Roy really liked me because I didn't have a clue who he was when I met him. I knew he was a famous actor, but I'd never seen any of his work. I never saw Jaws. I hadn't
And
seen
he
all
loved,
that jazz.
He loved that.
He loved that. He
Yeah.
loved that he could just be a regular guy and
Yeah.
talk about
Right.
music and literature.
Oh, I'd see him every morning at the Candy Kitchen
Right.
having his bacon and eggs or whatever. he
Yeah.
had. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's such a regular
Shopping at
guy.
the Grand Union. He was so
Yeah.
down to earth.
Yeah, right. Wonderful, boy. Wow. Brenda's moved from the area too, hasn't she?
She has. She's building
Yeah.
a house in Vermont now
Yeah.
with her new husband, Sam.
Oh, she married.
Yes.
Oh, lovely. Brenda. We miss you out here, but we're happy to hear that.
Yeah. And Christian's around. Christian and Molly are in the neighborhood still.
Yeah? Oh, wonderful.
And Christian just acted in his first film. I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but word
This
is out.
We're speaking
we are
of her
scooping.
children.
You're scooping it. He
Yeah.
just played Clive Owen's son in a film that also has Juliette Binoche.
He's
shot
so
it-
handsome.
He shot it this week. He's a good-looking guy.
Yeah,
smart
how
guy,
could he miss?
Talented guy.
Wow, that's true.
Yeah.
Do you know the name of the film? Because you really actually did hear it here for the first time.
I don't know the name of the movie.
All right, we'll find that.
And I know his daughter, Molly, what did she have, the pet snake?
Molly's very
seen
good
her.
with animals.
Oh, yes.
She has a lot of pets.
Yeah. Tell me about lyrics. Do you have interest in doing lyrics yourself?
Zero.
or- No, zero.
Zero. In fact, I hate
Something
to...
he can't do.
No,
okay,
I only
doesn't
know,
want to
no,
do.
I only know how to do music. That's all I know how to do.
Wow, that's interesting.
In fact, when I hear songs, I don't even hear the words.
You don't.
If
And
somebody said-
I hear the lyrics, and I often miss the orchestration and everything. I'm so into the. Isn't that? How about
That
you?
is kind of funny. You know, I know the words to every song
Yeah.
that was written after 1950, I think, unless
Yeah.
it's really current. I have no idea what's happening or what's cool with the kids today, but anything from about 1950 on, I will find myself, I'm like, how did I even know the word to, you know, hang on Sloopy? I have no idea.
Yeah.
But I know all the words.
My cousin-in-law wrote Hang On Sleep.
Are you kidding me?
Come on, really?
Wes Farrell, yeah.
I love our little interconnectedness.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you are or where you are, especially here. There's
Right.
always like just, I think it's 2 degrees of separation.
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's a funny thing.
It's a hug.
Speaking of connection, you brought this up, and I wanted to finish this. You worked on a piece that your wife did the sets for.
For the Minnesota Ballet.
Right. How was that?
That was fun. Oh, my. And Margaret and I are planning other projects together, too, responses to her work.
It was called The Passions, is
The
that right?
Passions was a ballet. We did it in 2003, and the choreographer came to visit us, and he'd created a storyboard, and then he would go off on a bike ride, and when he came back, I'd show him some of the music, and we worked it out that way, and then it was time for her to paint the set, and we drove to Duluth, because it was after 9/11, and I didn't want to get on a plane. And we drove all the way to Duluth and
That
saved
had to
the
be
whole family.
interesting.
Yeah, that was great. Everybody, it was, you know, the Griswolds.
Yeah.
The Griswolds make a ballet. And,
I would pay money to see that.
Yeah.
and she painted this thing on the floor. It was like the size of half a basketball court. It was huge. It's the biggest Margaret Garrett painting in existence.
Wow.
This beautiful set. And they danced in front of it. It was a great experience.
Wow. Now, well, 2 questions.
Yeah.
Totally different. Why did you choose Shelter Island? How did you get there? And also, what musicians are you looking at today, popular, that people might have heard of that you're following, if there are any? So,
Well, I mean, Henry Purcell, who lived at the time of Shakespeare.
He's current.
He's current,
Right,
yeah.
right.
I'm jamming off of his things.
Are you?
It's like all of me with Lily Tomlin and Steve Martin. My left hand is Henry Purcell and my right hand is me.
must be fun being him, right?
He's
All day.
funny, and this
Yeah.
is. I hope we get this. The shows through. He's very, very funny. Yeah, that's what when we very first met on Facebook randomly.
We met on Facebook.
We met on Facebook, and Margaret, we didn't meet like that. I can't wait to meet your wife, actually. But he's really, really, really funny, and he just amused me, and that's we started
Isn't
a
that
relationship,
charming?
and we did
Your
a
friendship?
piece on him in the press, and now he's our first guest on Murphy,
Yeah.
Watson and Co. Yeah,
Co.
and Co. So I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, it's
Continue.
fine. So yeah, we stayed. Shelter Island was a vacation we just never went home from.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we were between places in the city, and I grew so attached to the sky and the light, I didn't want to go home.
Gee. And there seems to be quite a few very brilliant artists living there on
There-
Shelter Island,
There are great artists living in the region, certainly.
in the region.
And yes, well,
Yeah.
you draw your friends from the region.
Of course.
Yeah,
And that's
Shelter
what
Island
makes
is-
it so wonderful, because we're not stuck in one little town. It's like the region.
Yeah, no, I live in the suburbs of Sag Harbor.
Yeah, it's true. That's a great way to
I
put
liked
it.
it. I like that.
You heard it here. Okay, you started that phrase. And so, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
didn't interrupt you. We have to listen to a little bit of your music. You did pick a selection.
Yes, we have things we can choose from. The thing that we have queued up was from the recent ballet, A Light in the Dark, available at wherever records are sold. Where are records sold these days?
Do they sell records anymore?
don't think so.
know. Digital download.
Digital download at iTunes
so
and
cool,
Amazon
just
and CD Baby. Yeah, everything's internet-based now.
Spotify.
Spotify, yes, it's free on Spotify. I shouldn't say that, but it's there.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's a good place to hear it.
Does that put you in a reverie or what?
Moody, there's Moody for you.
Yes.
The flute, the beautiful flute playing was by Maria Martin, who's the
Right.
the director of the Bridgehampton Chamber Music Festival. She was my flautist on this project.
I love that. To me, and it's funny because we were listening to this earlier, and it sounds like springtime to me, which is perfect.
Doesn't it?
Yeah, I could hear that.
Yeah. So, new birth. So.
And you, I just want to say before we go, you performed at Guildhall, was it in 2011?
I don't remember the date, but
Right.
it's The Many Worlds is a document of that, the Many Worlds
terrific.
recording.
Because you rarely perform.
It was my first public performance in 19 years.
Bravo.
Thank you. It was a promise I made to a friend before he died.
Wow, how moving is that? Well, you're a very special man. And
Well, thank you.
I'm very, very touched to meet you, and I truly admire what you do.
Thank you for coming.
The pleasure is mine. If anybody wants to know more about my work, they can visit my website, brucewolosoff.com. The trick is spelling my last name, but once you have that, you can find your way there.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you, Bruce.
Thank you.
Thank you.